Dogs and Beer Podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and with me tonight we have Jason and Joe. Jason, who is, of course, on Cloud 9 after the Phillies took the NLCS away from the Padres in one of the most dramatic finishes to a playoff game I think I've ever seen. Jason, how far up Cloud 9 are you right now, bud?
I'm pretty sure I'm approaching Cloud 10 or higher at this point. I cannot believe the run that this team is on right now, and it was very emotional seeing them win this. I tell you what, I definitely got a little choked up, especially Harper coming through the way he did, and man, worth every penny of that contract with that swing of the bat.
Well, and not only that, from all the negative comments that you were sending throughout the group chat throughout that game, just waiting for the whole thing to completely implode and stay implode and then re-implode after the Phillies took the lead again, you know.
I tell you, that reverse psychology. What do you say? Like, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So be prepared for more negativity in the World Series if that's what it takes. I will do the Lord's work for that. It's
the Lord's work.
You got to go with what works. So, I wasn't actually feeling that way. I was just, all right, let's just keep this going.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Joe, how you doing tonight, bud?
I am in a much better place than Jason was over the weekend with his glass case of emotion, man. I couldn't figure out which way you were going. It's ridiculous, man.
Every which way.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. The Irish didn't blow a game, so that's good.
Yeah.
They got a really tough game against Syracuse this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not looking forward to that one. For more feelings on that, follow the Huddle Up guys, because I'm sure they'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, and not only that, Syracuse is a tricky team this year because I didn't think they were going to be very good, but they've been sneaky good. Now, their metrics don't look great for the long run. I understand that, but they're still somehow pulling off the wins, which is what matters.
Yeah, I mean, they are in the ACC, though, and that's the equivalent of the AL Central. So,
yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. 100% true.
So,
all right. So, Jason, we'll start with you. What are you drinking tonight?
I only bring it out on special occasions. So tonight, special occasion, Phillies are the National League champs. They win the pennant. So I've got a glass of Lagavulin neat right now. Living that high life at the moment.
How dare you say high life with Lagavulin neat? Dude, come on. Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Evan Williams cherry. And I keep it chilled in the freezer, so it's real smooth. It takes the burn off and the bite away from it. Nice, smooth drink. And I've got some Mountain Dew to chase it if I need it.
A cherry whiskey and a Mountain Dew.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it, man.
Is that just like a Code Red drink? Is that what that is?
Basically, that's kind of what it turns into, yeah.
I mean, that said, I've made a delicious punch with Code Red. I mean, Bacardi Raz plus Code Red equals nice party time, but never heard that with a cherry whiskey.
It's a backup. I mean, most of the time I drink it straight and it's pretty smooth and wonderful, but sometimes you got to mix it up a little bit.
Well, since I'm the only one drinking beer tonight on the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast, I'm going with the good old Mango Card, a delicious summer beer, because apparently this year Atlanta is just a summer baseball team because they sucked in the spring and they fell apart in the fall. So here's to summer, baby.
I was going to say, you're the one that could be drinking beer because your team's not playing. You got to go classier when your team wins the pennant.
I was last year. You saw what I was doing. All right, so let's move into it. We've got some managers being hired. Bruce Bochy is coming out of a 3-year retirement. He's going to be managing the Rangers. GM Chris Young, who actually pitched for Bochy in San Francisco, said, quote, "One of the things I told Bochy when we offered him the job, I said, I'm not doing this because I loved you when I played for you. I'm doing this because I believe as an organization, you're the right person to lead us into the future. Bochy fit every part of our criteria." He last managed in 2019 when he stepped away after 13 seasons with the Giants and 12 seasons with the Padres. 03 to 0, I'm sorry, the 03 to 09 record. 2003 wins, 2029 losses. I thought I had that down as years, guys. My bad.
Podcasting is hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. All-time record, 2003 wins, 2029 losses over 25 seasons. It's a 497 winning percentage. He did win 3 titles with the Giants in 2010, 12, and 14 when he was going every other year, which that was, that was fun for predicting because you were pretty safe to predict every other year it was going to be the Giants, and they pulled it off enough times. All right. So last year, the Rangers, this year they went 68-94. They had a franchise record of 35 one-run losses, which is utterly insane. It was their 6th consecutive losing season, which is the longest streak for the franchise in the last half century since they moved to Texas in 1972. Their last winning record they had in any season was 10-9 in the beginning of the pandemic-shortened 2020 season. They are going to keep interim manager Tony Beasley on the staff, probably as the bench coach again, I would imagine. Which I think that's a good call. The team really did. They liked playing for him, even if the results weren't there. Plus, adding a little bit of continuity is probably good for that core of players, especially all the young players they've been bringing up. So, guys, what do you think? This is an interesting hire because on one hand, Bochy has had success in San Francisco, and he had some good years in San Diego. He never brought home the bacon in San Diego, but he did have a few good years, although he was overall better in San Francisco. But again, he kind of gives me like La Russa vibes where it's like, dude, your time's kind of up. You weren't really all that great at the end. What are you bringing to the table that's going to be different? And also, you haven't won a World Series since 2014. So, while you have the experience, it's been quite a while. Jason, what do you think about this one?
I think you have it pretty spot on here. I was thinking of another name, a name that I'm very familiar with, and that's Joe Girardi. At least Bochy has more than one World Series title, and within the last decade, and he has 3, 2010, 12, and 14. But I think he also had a better roster in those years. I good luck to them. I think he has the skills, but I don't know that he has the roster. So, and again, you're looking at a manager who is being hired for his laurels of the past. So I don't know that bringing him out of retirement is going to work out for him. All the best to him, but I don't know that I would have done that.
And frankly, I'm not sure he's the best manager candidate available anyway. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, the fact that they kept the interim manager on, you worry about who they're listening to in the clubhouse and in the dugout. With that, you worry about that a little bit. Like you guys said, you're bringing a guy in based on what he's done before, which could be good. But I think Bochy would do better than La Russa did. I think La Russa was just old and out of touch. And when you kind of sell out your young talent like La Russa did, that's a little bit different than what you'll probably see from Bochy. But I don't know. This could go good, but I don't expect it to be monumental.
Yeah, Bochy, I think, is a good player manager. So I think he definitely has a leg up on La Russa in that aspect because La Russa just puts his players under the bus. So
here's my question. Why did we not hear them even talk about interviewing who I think is probably the best guy available overall right now, Mike Schilt? I don't understand why this guy has not yet gotten another managing job offer yet. I mean, I understand that the Cardinals didn't like how things were going, but the dude's got a 559 winning percentage as a manager right now through 451 games as manager. I mean, I think this is absolutely nuts that he hasn't been interviewed yet. And I know there's still some jobs open out there, but this seems odd to me that he wasn't at least considered.
Do we know that they didn't interview him? I mean, that's kind of.
That was going to be my question was, do we know who they interviewed? Because there are league rules, where unless, like in the case of Rob Thompson, you can hire an interim manager based on their performance as interim manager. You don't have to go through the whole process. But there are league requirements as far as interviews go, interviewing minorities and things like that. So I'm curious to know who they interviewed, because there's another name that I would be very sad when they leave, but I understand it. And that's Dusty Wathan, the third base coach of the Phillies, because he has managerial experience in the minor leagues. He managed the AAA team, the Iron Pigs, for multiple years before coming up to the big club. And I'm from what I've heard, he's getting some looks. But yeah, I'm just curious to know who they interviewed, because I can't imagine that there weren't better fits.
It looks like they did give Beasley the first interview. From what I'm seeing, they said he would be the only internal candidate for the job. They didn't mention who else be interviewed, though.
I mean, the fact that he had a personal relationship with Bojik, that kind of makes you a little weary about it, because usually if you have a personal relationship with the guy, a la Reinsdorf and La Russa, it doesn't go well.
Yeah,
because then
absolutely.
You can't fire them, or you feel like you can't fire them.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else other than that. So yeah, I don't know. All right, let's see. Oh, I love the trolls from YouTube. Let's get them blocked and get them out of the feed. All right, they are gone. So anybody
don't want to find your perfect match?
Found her almost 10 years ago.
Great answer.
Hey, I'm not sleeping on the couch tonight, at least not for that. Yeah, anyway, I think it's an interesting hire. I don't think Bochy's the worst hire they could have made. I mean, they could have brought La Russa in, for God's sake. That would have been the worst. Or Girardi. I think those would have been the two worst hires that they could have made. I don't expect to see Girardi hired for at least 2 or 3 more seasons, if he is ever hired by any team ever again, outside of the New York Yankees, because we all know if there's any team that's going to be steeped in tradition and do stupid stuff because they can, it's going to be the Yankees. So that would be the only time that that would be the only one I would see there. All right, so the other one that I saw was John Schneider. He is now the permanent manager of the Blue Jays. He was named interim manager after Charlie Montoya was fired in July. He led the Blue Jays to a 46-28 record, signed a 3-year contract with a team option for 26. I really like this move by the Blue Jays. And for this, he was a minor league manager in the system for 10 years. He won championships at 3 different levels before joining the Blue Jays staff in 2019. And kind of similar to Brian Snitker and the Braves, he managed a ton of the core young players in the minor leagues before he came up. So they're already familiar with him. They know his managing style. They're comfortable around him. And let's face it, he turned that Blue Jays team around and lit them on fire. I think this is just like Thompson and the Phillies. I think this is a great move by the Blue Jays. What do you guys think?
100%. 100%.
Yeah, no argument from me on that one.
Yeah, definitely a great move there. And then one more managerial note. Francona is going to return next year for his 11th season with the Guardians. It seems insane that he has now been in Cleveland for 11 years, considering everything he did in Boston. And then you think back, oh, right, that was in the early 2000s when we were in high school and early college. So Francona is back with the one of the oldest managers with the youngest team in baseball for next season as well. All right, so Joe, what do you have tonight for Release the Good?
To cross sports into football, the Packers lost again
Woohoo!
three times in a row.
Yes.
EJ will be happy that I say the Giants somehow didn't lose yesterday. So that's a release to good for football, folks. Baseball wise, I think seeing what the Phillies did this week was a lot of fun to watch. The fact that the Yankees aren't in the World Series, the fact that the Braves and the Mets are not in the World Series,
Yeah, whatever.
all of those are great things. But one other thing I'd like to touch on quickly is a service project I'm involved in at my church. It's called a Box of Joy program. It's to give it's a small shoebox program similar to what Samaritan's Purse does for children in poor countries to help give them some joy at Christmas time. So just wanted to plug that, something that I'm involved in. Boxofjoy.org is the website if you're looking for more info on that.
That's awesome. Sounds like a great project, Joe.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. So why don't you roll us into the ALCS tonight? That was definitely not the exciting of the two championship series, and I would say that even if we didn't have a diehard Phillies fan here as a co-host, it just was not nearly as exciting as the
100%. The games weren't really even that competitive. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Just the score rundown: 4-2, 3-2. Obviously a sweep, so I don't have to tell you who won. 4-2, 3-2, 5-0, and 6-5. Pena and Bregman delivered for Houston. Aaron Judge did not. He had one hit in the entire series out of 16 at bats, I think it was. One hit and one run, and that's it. So to the point where he, I think, was booed on Saturday night in Yankee Stadium, which some people were like, really? You're going to boo the guy? I'm like, well, it's the playoffs. It's time to perform. Like, yeah. The fact that I think the ALCS just solidifies the fact that Aaron Judge is the only reason they went that far to begin with.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, when he didn't show up in the playoffs, who was there to carry the team on their back? Nobody.
Well,
Yeah.
and look at how they ended the regular season. They had a terrible second half. So, I mean, they had a big enough lead because they had such a dominant first half that they limped into the playoffs and just never got it going.
Yeah, and real quickly, I think this is kind of neat tying into the NLCS and your Phillies there, Jace. Hector Neris was excellent in this series. Excellent in this series. 2 2/3 innings. He gave up one hit, one run. That was last night. Last night he got the win. So Hector Neris performed exceptionally well for the Houston Astros.
Well, and he's not their actual closer, from what I remember, right?
No, he's not.
And that's where he thrives, is
Presley's their
not in
closer.
that closer role.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Presley's
we
their
saw
closer.
near the end of his time in Philadelphia, they moved him into the 7 and 8 spot, and he dominated. I said at the end of that season, I would actually have been fine bringing him back as long as he wasn't the closer, because he showed he can be dominant in that setup type of role. And I'm glad he's found his spot, and I hope the Phillies take it to him if and when they see him.
I'm looking forward to the Hector Neris revenge game, at least one of these games.
That's going to definitely be one of the storylines, no doubt.
Yeah, he's listed third on the depth chart right now for the Astros in the bullpen, behind Presley's the closer and Stanek. And yeah, Stanek is filthy.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of my biggest fear with the World Series. I mean, the Phillies have an incredibly uphill climb to go against this team. The Astros are the most complete team in baseball. But when you have a 7th, 8th, 9th of just dominating pitchers in those three, it's tough. You need to buckle down, and it's tough. It's going to be quite a series. I think it's either going to be really good or really bad.
Jason, before you roll into this too far, why don't you talk, Joe, finish up the ALCS, Jason, NLCS. Then you can talk about why you're worried about the Astros curb stomping the Phillies.
Yeah, a couple of things.
I'd say curb stomping. Good Lord. There's the bitter Braves fan coming out.
No, that's not bitter. I'm having fun.
Yeah, couple of things about the Yankees here with this series. As you said, Jason, the Astros are loaded. It was insane. This series, just how dominant they were and how pathetic New York was. Given their second half, we're not surprised by that. But for Yankee fans and Yankee organization, don't complain about the roof being open in a game. Number one. Number two, stop asking for a team and then getting destroyed by them. Last year, you wanted Fenway Park and you didn't get past the wild card. This year, you wanted Houston and you got smoked. Like, stop picking your team.
Maybe if you ask for a team, maybe ask for freaking National League team so you can at least make it to the World Series and lose, because now we're well over a decade since the last time the Yankees have sniffed the World Series and played in one.
Yeah,
and you know what? Here's the thing. So what if the roof was open? The roof was open in Game 6 last year, and Atlanta did fine. Give me a break. The roof being open does not make a freaking difference at all. That's a terrible excuse. It's give me a come on, guys.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last year, and Todd brings up a good point. That Boone came back because they backed into the playoffs and somehow got in. Boone cannot return as the manager, I don't think. He got an extra grace period again because of getting into the playoffs last year, but now he's clearly not the answer.
Yeah, and I have a friend who was at the Game 3, the 5-0 loss. She's a big Yankees fan. She grew up around that general area, I believe. And she posted after the game, she's never felt sadder watching the Yankees in the playoffs and being at a game like that. She said, basically, the decisions that Boone made, the way that Cashman built this team, you have 3 middle of the order players who are batting 200 or less. Like, the team's just not built for a run. And I felt bad seeing her post that, because that just kind of epitomizes, I think, what Yankee fans are feeling. Like, they're not even angry. It's one of those, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, because they know that the team just needs a change.
Yeah, and it's got to come from the top. I mean, Cashman's been there forever. And I know unfortunately, he's probably at the point where he's practically unfireable and will only be removed either A, if a Steinbrenner kid finally grows a pair half the size of his dad and says, you're not doing the job, you're gone, or B, Cashman realizes things aren't working and resigns on his own. I don't see that happening.
I think you start with a different manager, and then if you don't have success next year, Cashman has to go.
Yeah. And Boone's going to argue, hey, we were the 2 seed and we got knocked out by the 1 seed, but you weren't competitive. The Yankees weren't competitive at any point in that series. Yeah, great points, Todd. 15 teams that have made an appearance in the World Series since the Yankees last made it, including the Phillies this year. For the Yankees, that's inexcusable and should spell his doom. Absolutely. Todd, if George was still in charge, he would be gone. He would have been gone last year.
Yeah.
George would not have accepted backing into the wild card and then getting beaten out so badly, especially by the Red Sox. And it's the big difference between George Sr. and everybody else in charge of this team. It really is.
I mean, we're so used, we hate the Yankees so much that we're not used to seeing this long of a period of mediocrity or worse. They're like, hey, we've had 30 plus winning seasons. Okay. And you have one World Series appearance. It was a win, but also appearance since 2009. When that was the last time the Phillies were in the World Series. They lost to the Yankees in 6. And I'm not used to seeing a mediocre or bad Yankees team. I mean, I'm fine with it, but Yankee fans certainly aren't used to experiencing the lows that, Joe and my teams experience. Andrew, you've had good history, so you don't count in this one. But like,
hey, we had some pretty bad years in between the 2 blocks of really good, though. Let's be fair.
But like, Joe and I are used to our teams just kind of bleh, and Yankee fans aren't. So they're not used to experiencing those lows, and they're starting to experience those lows.
And it's kind of the same thing with like Celtics and Lakers fans. The NBA was dominated for so many years by the Celtics and Lakers, and now, especially the Lakers being as bad as they are, what the hell is up with this 0-3 start, guys? Well, I know what's up with the 0-3 start, and yeah, I'm not surprised. But teams that are so dominant like that for so long, and then it's like, what do you do when you have all of these runs of bad years without titles? It's nuts. The freaking the Yankees are just they need to make changes. That's straight up what needs to happen, and they've tried to make deadline deals the last couple of years. Now, Benintendi was a great deal this year, and he got hurt. That's it's like Ryan Howard getting hurt in the playoffs. You can't predict injuries. If there are players that have an injury history, you can look at that, and that's going to come into play with DeGrom in the offseason here. But you can't just, you can't say, hey, I'm going to get this guy. Oh, he got hurt. He's never been hurt before. You can't do any of that.
They're buying the wrong players is what they're doing. When they spend the money in free agency, they're spending it on the wrong people.
I think we're overlooking the importance of Joey Gallo on this Yankees team.
Oh my God. I hated the deal last year. He was terrible this whole time this year until they dumped him off on the Dodgers, and he was terrible on the Dodgers too. Like,
yeah, he was terrible on the Dodgers, but the Yankees also were terrible without him.
I mean,
they actually did worse without him.
I know that's insane. I mean, talk about using the causative property as incorrectly as we can. That's utterly insane. But yeah, guys, the Yankees. This is insane that we even have to say this. Insane that we have to say this, but the Yankees are a mess, and that there's just so much to fix that I'm not even sure bringing Aaron Judge back is going to be the answer. And first of all, they need to bring Judge back. He is their franchise right now. But I just don't even know if that's the answer or if that's even enough.
If I'm Aaron Judge, I don't want to come back.
Well, Aaron Judge is going to be able to write his own contract and check this offseason.
And I mean, I wouldn't blame Judge for not going back. I mean, I'm sure he sees what's going on there right now. I mean, you have that Donaldson deal. Todd, that was one of the things I was thinking of too here is Donaldson's one of the ones that,
that made no sense.
And that goes back to they're buying the wrong players. When they're spending the money, they're not spending the money on the right players.
That deal, I remember bringing that up when we covered that in one of our first episodes back after the lockout, and we were all baffled by that deal. First, I think we were mostly confused by what the hell Minnesota was doing, but we didn't really look at it from the perspective of the Yankees and ask, what the hell are the Yankees doing? That deal just didn't make sense across the board for anybody. Judge to the dud. Ronnie, if there's a team out there that's willing to throw as much money as they can to get past to beat the Mets and Cohen's tax and get ahead of them, it is the Dodgers. And to be honest, I wouldn't be upset if Judge was with the Dodgers because we only play them a couple times a year.
And I think that there is potential for that because I don't know that Trey Turner is going to be back in LA. I'm pretty sure Philly is going to make a big push for him.
Yeah.
But so you're going to have him off the books. You're going to have multiple players coming off the books for the Dodgers that they may be able to spend the money on him. So
yes. Yeah. Well, and I would say the Red Sox are one that will probably take a look at him as well because they also have money to splash. They always do. We know the Mets have said that they're going to be big spenders every offseason until they buy a title like their older brothers, the Yankees. The Judge race is going to be fascinating to watch, but the Mets have so much they need to re-sign, like we talked about last week. The Mets have a ridiculous number of free agents, so who knows where all that money is going to go because they also want DeGrom back and they need Bassett back. And it's where Aaron Judge goes. God, I hope Diaz leaves the NL East. I hope he leaves the NL East.
as Todd blocks us and leaves, stops listening right now.
Yeah, right. God, I hope Diaz leaves the East. I only want to hear the freaking trumpets when Contreras comes up to bat. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's guys, the Yankees are a mess and the Astros are just absolutely on fire. And let's use that to segue into the NLCS for you, Jason, and talk about the other team that's absolutely on fire and white hot right now, the Phillies.
Yeah. Again, I'm pretty sure this is where Todd will also tune out because he is going to be in baseball hell with the.
I could see that, Todd. I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, I could see that too. So I know Todd and you are going to be in baseball hell for the World Series here with the being Phillies and Astros.
Kind of like you were last year with Astros Braves.
Yeah. Although if I recall correctly, I think I was more in support of the Braves just because I didn't want the Astros but I think I was also kind of like middle of the road. But anyway, the National League Championship Series with the Phillies and the Padres. This one went 5 games. Game 1 was a 2-0 Phillies win. Zach Wheeler went 7 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Yu Darvish, he ended up taking the loss. 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. Sir Anthony Dominguez pitched the 8th. Alvarado got the save in the 9th. And Will Myers was the only hit for the Padres the entire night. Wheeler just dominant. I mean, both pitchers were – it was a matchup of the aces, and it showed. Darvish made 2 mistakes. He gave up a home run to Bryce Harper in the 4th to left center field, and he gave up just a bomb to Kyle Schwarber. That was one of the craziest home runs I've ever seen. And the true definition of a Schwarbomb, which I kind of want to also attribute to Wawa for bringing Schwarberfest back for the rest of the playoff run, because Hoagie Fest was in June and Schwarber went off in June. So they're trying to boost along with that superstition. But Schwarber had the home run in the 6th to put them up 2-0. It was 488 feet, basically 120 miles per hour exit velo. Farthest hit ball in Petco Park history, farthest hit ball of Kyle Schwarber's career. And it was also, I believe, the fastest, the hardest hit ball in postseason history in the StatCast era. So big 2-0 win to come out the gates. And then the Phillies had a chance to go up 2-0 on the road in game 2, but they did end up losing this one to the Padres in comeback fashion, 8-5. Blake Snell, that was kind of one of the stories of this game. First time Bryce Harper faced him after Snell broke his thumb back in June or July. He went 5, gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. The loss went to Aaron Nola, so the older brother Austin got the better of the younger brother in the battle. We'll get to the war later. And Nola went 4 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, 6 strikeouts. He didn't pitch terribly, but he did start losing his command. And when he got pulled in that 5th, he left with runners on base, and they all just ended up coming in to score. Josh Hader got the save. Phils had a 4-0 lead in the 2nd. And in that inning, the sun was absolutely a factor. There was a fly ball to right field that Soto was going towards, and he just lost it, and it fell. It was crazy to see. Again, why have games starting in the afternoons? I mean, I guess you want people to be able to watch both games, but I don't know. You don't want weather affecting things, which, again, we'll get to later. Drury and Bell for the Padres had back-to-back home runs in the 2nd. Austin Nola had an RBI single off of his younger brother in the 5th. The Padres used a 5-run 5th to take the lead, and Manny Machado hit a home run in the 7th. Rhys Hoskins hit a home run in the 8th to the Western Metal Supply Company building. But again, an 8-5 win for the Padres to tie the series at 1 as it comes back to Philadelphia. I'll pause here for you to give your thoughts on the first 2 games here, because my thoughts were the Phillies had a big chance to go up 2-0, and it was a little worrisome just because if you can go up 2-0 on the road to come home, you really kind of need to do that. But the ultimate goal was really just to take 1 on the road because you have to at some point. So thoughts on the first 2 games there?
Yeah, getting the first one, splitting in San Diego was drastically important. Obviously, you have to win one of those, whether it's on the front end or the back end. But I mean, the front end particularly, you have to do that. So, that was very important. Obviously, Bryce and Schwarber did what they had to do.
Yeah, that was basically what it was. And the Phillies, they did what they had to do. They came and they got one of the 2 games, split the series, and brought it back to Philadelphia, where they are a significantly better team than they are on the road.
Yeah, and I think my thing with that was you have to win one of those games because you have your top 2 pitchers going in those first 2 games. If you lose both of those, that series is over.
Mm-hmm. And you guys got around some truly horrible officiating. Now, it affected both teams. You got the NLCS umpiring crew, especially behind home plate, was absolute garbage.
Oh, it was terrible. It was. I'm trying to be unbiased with this. I thought it was fairly consistently bad both ways. The games kind of alternated as to who it favored a little bit. In general, that was pretty just consistently bad for everybody.
Yeah, and I have to say, just from what I have been seeing and reading throughout this entire postseason, home plate umpires have been garbage. And the scorecards have really shown that out from the various sites online, Ump Scorecard and all the others that grade the umpiring calls and everything else. It's been inconsistent, and it's been really, really bad. And I don't want to take anything away from what the Phillies did, but especially late in the series, the Padres really started to get hosed in Philadelphia with garbage calls. It's the we're getting close to robot umps at this rate, because this whole playoff experience umpire wise has just been horrible, and it shouldn't be. Baseball should be better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the Padres getting hosed in the series in Philadelphia, but
there were they had a lot more impactful calls go against them in Philadelphia than the Phillies did, from what I saw in the scorecards. Hosed might be the wrong word, but I'm just looking at the list of impactful calls that made the most run swing differentials, the Padres got hurt by that more than the Phillies did in Philadelphia. Sorry, I had a better way to put that.
Yeah. So moving on to game 3 here. I saw a stat where winner of game 3 wins the series, and a tied series wins the entire series 70% of the time. And this one went to the Phillies, a 4-2 win. Ranger Suarez pitched the game of his life. He was just painting the corner, great pitches. He went 5, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, had 3 strikeouts. The loss went to Red Hot Joe Musgrove. He went 5 2/3, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Anthony Dominguez got the save, which I'll touch on that in a moment here. Bottom of the first, Schwarber had a leadoff home run to really set the tone for the game. Cronenworth then had an RBI fielder's choice and a Segura error in the 4th, but Gene made up for it in the bottom of the 4th with a 2 RBI single, and he also made some great diving stops later. So pretty standard game there, 4-2 win for the Phils to go up 2-1 in the series. Anthony Dominguez, he had a 6-out save through 34 pitches, and people were asking Thompson about that because Alvarado pitched the 8th, then had 24 pitches. And they said, why did you do that? Why didn't you bring in like David Robertson or Zach Eflin? And he said, you play to win today. He said, you don't go to tomorrow without winning today, which I absolutely loved that thought process. Focus on that game. Forget tomorrow. Forget the rest of the series. You need to win that game when you have a chance to close them out. Game 4, this was a weird-ass game, I tell you what. 10-6 win for the Phils. The win went to Brad Hand. The loss went to Sean Manaea. Bailey Falter went 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk. They were hoping to get him through the lineup once, which he technically did almost, but in only 2/3 of an inning. They were hoping to get 3 innings from him. But Mike Clevenger said, hold my beer. I'm not going to get any outs. So I'm going to go 0 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 runs, and 1 walk. It was the first time since 1932 and only the second time ever that both starting pitchers were pulled before finishing an inning to start the game. So what started out as trying to be like both teams kind of get just having like a bridge to the next ended up being a full bullpen game. The Phillies used 6 of their bullpen arms. The Padres used 5. Alvarado and Dominguez did not pitch. Rob Thompson had Brogdon and Robertson throw more than 1 inning. But you have your key highlights here. Manny Machado home run in the 1st. Reese a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 1st. They tied it in the 4th on a stop single. Soto then got it back in the 5th with a 2-run homer. Reese then hit a second of the game to tie it back in the bottom of the 5th with a 2-run homer. And then Bryce Harper had a go-ahead double in the 5th. Schwarber a home run in the 6th, and JT Realmuto a home run in the 7th. If you look at the box score and not the final, and you see Machado and Soto homer, you're thinking the Padres win this game. No. Phillies take a commanding 3-1 series lead with the 10-6 win. Game 5, Phillies close it out. 4-3 win in one of the most exciting finishes ever. Bryce Harper earns his contract. Win went to Jose Alvarado, lost to Suarez from the Padres. Ranger Suarez gets the 2-out save because David Robertson, Joe. Zach Wheeler went 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. He pitched great. Ran into trouble because of the weather. Yu Darvish, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Dominant by both pitchers again. Hoskins had a 2-run homer in the 3rd. Soto a home run in the 4th. Bell had a double to tie it in the 7th, and Ezekar in the 7th scored on a wild pitch. Sir Anthony Dominguez threw 3 wild pitches in 1 inning. Again, it was pouring at this time. There should have been a delay. The field was a puddle. It absolutely affected his grip on the ball, and it showed. I mean, pitches were sailing over JT's head. But then you get to the bottom of the 8th inning. JT Realmuto starts with a single off of Suarez, and in a very mind-blowing move, Bob Melvin keeps Suarez, a right-hander, in to face Harper, and Suarez only has his fastball at this point. He's not locating other pitches, and instead of walking Harper, he pitches to him. Instead of going to Josh Hader, a lefty, he keeps Suarez in, and Bryce Harper, with the swing of his life and the home run of his career, gives the Phillies a 4-3 lead. And I just can't believe that happened. And then in the 9th, Robertson got the first out on strikeout, walked 2 batters. So they brought Thompson was like, I'm going to Ranger Suarez for the save, who pitched the night before. And the reason Thompson went to him is he said, Ranger Suarez has a standing heart rate of 62 beats per minute. He's going to be the most calm in that situation. I know you're a medical person. You're thinking 60 beats per minute. That's not possible. But the idea is he's the most calm on the mound.
No, that's absolutely possible.
Okay.
It's
You're just
possible.
giving me this look like, huh?
No. I just think using that logic is a little whacked. I mean, hell, snipers can control their heart rate down to the 30s and 40s.
Yeah. Well, the idea is Suarez is the one in the pen that's going to be the most calm in that high pressure situation. Runners on first and second, and it showed. He, for some reason, Trent Grisham decided to try and butt his way on the first pitch, which Suarez made a great play. I mean, that field was wet. He could have slipped and thrown the ball away, but he planted, threw a bullet to get the out. Todd, I feel like Tony La Russa told Grisham to bunt. I mean, Grisham was having such a bad series. I kind of understand why he was trying to do that, but you then give yourself second and third with 2 outs like that. It just doesn't make sense. And then the very next pitch, so Suarez threw 2 pitches to get both outs. Austin Nola made the final out. So younger brother Aaron gets to go to the World Series. Philadelphia Phillies, your 2022 National League champions. It's their first pennant since 2009. Bryce Harper, who is on an absolute tear this postseason, NLCS MVP. Harper's batting .400 in the postseason. 5 home runs, 11 extra base hits. He is just dominant right now, and you have 2 hot teams here coming up: Astros, who are 7-0, and the Phillies, who are 9-2. So something's going to give here. But way to go, Phils! Salute you.
Go for it, Joe. Go for it, Joe.
So just to be clear, Mike Clevenger is not a Cy Young candidate, correct?
Nope.
Just to be clear, because that's not what I heard in the group chat during the game.
Because it would have been like the Phillies that I remember to make Joe Musgrove look like a Cy Young candidate. Yeah.
Karen, you might want to put Jason on the couch tonight.
Yeah.
So I did see, I saw that the city of Philadelphia did decide to ineffectively grease the pools like they always do because Philly is a city that's just not used to continued success. They have to grease the pools after a championship series and not the actual title. And let's be real, the greasing the pools never stops these people anyway. They still manage to get up to the top. So I don't know why they bother making that horrible mess that they then have to clean up later. But Ronnie, like I said, the grease never works. They've been trying this since the 70s and the Broad Street Bullies. The grease has not worked once. Just give it up. Let them climb the pools. Let them be idiots and move on.
And I mean, it rained. I'm sure the rain probably washed some of that off.
No, grease is hydrophobic. The rain would have nothing to do with
You're
it.
hydrophobic.
No, I'm not. I work on the
Karen's
golf course.
hydrophobic.
I got soaked today working on the golf course, so no, I'm definitely not hydrophobic as much as I wish I was. Just one comment I wanted to bring up from the ALCS from Jason Lee Rushinoff. His comment didn't pop through. He said Yankees reached the ALCS, but was the worst team in the playoffs. We need to get contact hitters, better bullpen. Need a Trey Turner, not a Stanton or a Donaldson. Need to build a '90s Yankees or Braves team, and yeah. That's exactly right. They need to go back to that core. You need good, solid pitching. You need good, solid defense behind it, and you need contact hitting. Great comment there, Jason. Good call, Karen. Good call. All right. So, Joe, anything else from the NLCS, or do you think Jason kind of steamrolled the whole thing through us?
Well, for sure that, but I would say in defense of David Robertson, that there wouldn't be a bunt if David Robinson hadn't let two guys get on. So the easy second out would not have happened but for David Robertson.
True. And one other thing I would like to bring up once again. The Phillies pitching staff owes JT Realmuto steak dinners on demand for the next 10 years for the number of times he continually bails out their bounced pitches in the dirt. JT is going to be the Golden Glove to jump ahead to whenever we cover Golden Gloves. He will be the Golden Glove at catcher in the National League. If he's not, I will be shocked. And if it's d'Arnaud, I'm going to be pissed off, even though I love Travis d'Arnaud and having him on the Braves. He should not win it above JT Realmuto, nor should anybody else in the National League.
I mean, this postseason, and where people can actually see him playing, like, it shows why we call him the best catcher in baseball.
On cue, Dan. Very nice, bud. But he is the best defensive catcher in baseball right now, without a doubt. No questions asked.
He has the quickest pop time.
One of the best as well. Now, I will say this, Jason, keep an eye on Shea Langoliers in Oakland. He is the only guy I've seen come up with the cannon and the pop time that might match JT. We'll have to keep an eye on him. He like I said back in March, he was the one guy who was really pissed off that Oakland demanded in the Olsen trade. The one guy I wanted to keep. I would have rather given up Little Contreras, but it seems to have turned out all right to keep Little Contreras because Shea didn't do much in the majors this year, but then again, neither did Oakland, so who's surprised? All right, so guys, let's kick it off in the World Series. This is the Phillies versus the Astros. The Astros, of course, will have home field advantage as they are the one seed over. They were the one seed overall, I believe. I know the Dodgers were the overall one. They're the overall two, but it doesn't matter because the Dodgers got sent home whimpering by the Padres. So games 1 and 2 and 6, 7, if necessary, will be in Houston, and 3, 4, 5 will be in Philadelphia. Joe and I were talking about this a while ago, Jason, about like the NBA going from the 2-3-2 back to the 2-2-1-1-1 format. And because it's not a cross-country series, it's actually possible they could have done that for this World Series. They could have done it last year too. Do you think maybe they should look at going to 2-2-1-1-1 instead of 2-3-2, or do you like the 2-3-2 format?
I'm fine with the 2-3-2 format. It's you have to take a game on the road if you're the Phillies either way. So what's the difference if it's in the first two or if it's one of the extra ones? I think teams prefer to have fewer travel days. I I personally would prefer to have fewer travel days while watching, because it helps make the series a little shorter. Because remember, you're going to be playing into November if like either way. So November in Philadelphia.
5th. November 5th. It will be, if we go to game 7, it will be November 5th. It will be the latest in baseball history.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to get too far into November. So figure you will be adding an extra couple days there. So yeah, I'm fine with the 2-3-2.
Although
Doesn't
granted,
really have an effect.
Game 7 will be in Houston if we would get to a Game 7.
Right.
And maybe Houston will open the roof and either screw themselves like they did last year or screw you guys like they did to the Yankees this year. Who knows? Because
I don't think the Phillies will care about it.
I don't think anybody cares about it except for whiny teams who got knocked out. All right, so all games are 8:03 start times per ESPN. When I checked earlier today, they will all be aired on Fox. No probables yet, as far as I could see. Jason, I'm assuming Wheeler will be ready to go game 1, or are they going to go Nola Wheeler?
I'm assuming it's going to be Wheeler Nola because it's a full week's rest, basically.
Okay.
So
Like, I couldn't remember when he pitched last and how many days till the next
he pitched yesterday.
Okay, yeah, he'll be fine then. That's regular rest. Okay. All right, so just some fun stats I pulled up here. Regular season records: Houston 106-56, first in the Central, first AL seed. They are 55-26 at home, 51-30 on the road, and against teams over 500, 42-27. The Phillies 87-75, third in the East, NL6 seed, the third wild card, 47-34 at home, 40-41 on the road, 34-47 against teams over 500. Offensive numbers in the playoffs actually surprisingly similar. Power numbers better for Philly, but overall pretty rounded out. Houston 227, 300, 408 line, 12 homers, 31 RBIs, 58 hits, 61 strikeouts, 20 walks. And from playing the Astros last year, that absolutely checks out with the Astros. They are a very disciplined team with bats. They don't get struck out very easily. Philadelphia 237, 307, 442 line, 16 home runs, 57 RBIs, 82 hits, 94 strikeouts, 31 walks. Again, those numbers don't surprise me. Philly has more sluggers than Houston does. Houston's going to beat you by just hitting the ball all over the place and all the time. Philly's going to beat you by smacking the ball out of the park more often than not. Pitching numbers in the playoffs: Houston 7-0. And again, this is insane that they have not yet lost a game this postseason. And it's not like they've been playing the children of the poor schools like you see Ohio State usually play, or actually this year was Michigan and non-con play, not Ohio State. Houston had a tough race getting through Seattle, and then, the Yankees didn't put up much fight. Anyway, Houston 7-0, 188 ERA, 4 saves, 2 shutouts, 72 innings, 46 hits, 15 earned runs, 5 homers, 21 walks, 89 strikeouts, a 178 opposing batting average against, and a .93 whip. Philadelphia 9-2, 306 ERA, 4 saves, 2 shutouts, 97 innings, so a little more wear and tear in the Phillies staff. Of course, they had the extra round. 69 nice hits given up, 33 earned runs, 12 home runs, 25 walks, 107 strikeouts. Again, that does not surprise me, especially with Wheeler and Nola leading the top of that rotation. A 191 opponent batting average against and a .88 whip. Honestly, guys, just looking at the stats, these teams are incredibly well matched. Dan, that's my assumption for game 1, although I could see McCullers too, depending on how Houston wants to play it, but I think they're insane if they don't go Verlander game 1. Run the old guy who's got the most experience out there and success.
Go with the Cy Young winner for this year.
Yeah. No reason not to. And that's going to be one hell of a game. So Ronnie, you're not thinking sweep, I can tell, if you're saying we better get to at least game 5.
Well, there's a reason for that. Ronnie actually has a ticket to game 5.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Ronnie, for your sake, I do hope they get to game 5 then, so you can actually see a World Series game.
I am incredibly jealous of you. Oh my God.
That is something I know for a fact is not anywhere in my future anytime soon, being that we live in Pennsylvania and the Braves play in Georgia. And let's face it, unless I've got a couple truckloads of money by the time the Braves make it back, which isn't likely. That's not going to happen. All right. So this is seriously, we are bringing the two hottest teams in baseball in. You've got the Astros are red hot, the Phillies are red hot, and it's going to be a cataclysmic collision in Houston in game one. Phenomenal pitching matchup. You've got some great sluggers on both sides. Altuve is going to be Altuve. Grandal. Here's the thing: if you can keep Grandal under control, you might have a chance of keeping the rest of that offense under control because he is huge for the Astros. And the Phillies will counter with Harper and Schwarber. This is going to be a great series. It should be. Joe, what do you think?
This is the fun part. Look, something's got to give here. I think the Phillies are the hotter of the two because they've had to play through it more. With the playoffs, getting into the playoffs, they were on a run. They've been on a run ever since then. I'm gonna go Phillies. It's gonna be 5 or 6 games.
Okay. This is a tough one for me to predict because I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I don't really care who wins this one, kind of like Jason last year. On one hand, I've said many times, I don't ever want to see the Astros win again because of the cheating scandal. That said, Dusty Baker is not a cheater. He is a baseball lifer, and he is one hell of a guy. I always loved Dusty wherever he was at. I would not be upset to see Dusty finally get a freaking World Series title that has eluded him for so many years. This is a tough one to predict because of how hot these two teams are and how good these two teams are. I think I'm gonna go. I've literally tossed coins all day trying to decide who I'm going to pick in this one. I think I'm going to go Astros in 5. And also, Jason, it might help you because I picked against the Phillies in every series except for the first one. So maybe that'll help you as well. But I don't think it's going to be a sweep either way. I don't think it's going to be a sweep in the Astros. I don't think it's going to be a sweep for the Phillies. Yeah, Todd.
We blocked Todd.
Well, I think Todd actually said last week that he just wanted to see the Phillies TKO'd as quickly as possible. Ronnie is calling Phillies in 6. Ronnie, I'm surprised you didn't say Phillies in 5 so you could be there to see it live. I would have absolutely understood you saying Phillies in 5. Yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to stick with Astros in 5. What are you thinking, Jason?
So you think the Astros are going to win at least 2 in Philly?
Yeah. The Astros aren't phased playing on the road. That I know postseason versus regular season, but still, the fact that they put up an almost identical record at home and away this year, that's pretty hard to ignore. And I know their division's garbage. I understand that, but the bottom of our division is garbage too. So, I really do think the Astros can take 2 in Philadelphia.
The AL West is garbage. I mean,
so my thought here.
Yeah, I get that, Ronnie. I get that.
On paper, the Astros are the most complete team. Starting pitching depth, bullpen depth. The offenses are pretty matched up. I would probably give the Astros a little bit of an edge on the defense, although the Phillies have seemed to they had a couple struggles, but for the most part, their defense has been solid. I don't think they're here without some of these plays that they've made.
And they're here despite some of these plays they've made.
Yeah. But I mean, the brain says Houston. The heart and the feeling of it feels like it's the Phillies' year. I don't know. Like, it's hard to explain, like, the last time that they've done this. I mean, the thing that the Phillies have going for them is the atmosphere at Citizens Bank Park is just insane. And I think that can help the Phillies take at least 2 in Philadelphia. I was going back and forth on this because you have the brain versus the heart here. So there was one other thing I was trying to think of. The Astros' last loss was against the Phillies the night that the Phillies clinched the wild card. I think the good thing about that is the Astros didn't get to see really anything the last 2 games. You can look at that and be like, oh, the Astros took 2 out of 3. Yeah, but the Phillies didn't really play with any heart the last 2 games because they fought so hard to get in. And especially the last game, they rested players. So I said this last week, I'm wearing the Schmidt jersey again, got to go with what works. So I'm going to do my prediction that I did last week because it worked. I'm going to go Phillies in 6. This team, looking at their history, things that have happened, in 2008, they won the World Series without losing a single game at home. They went 8-0 at home. They haven't lost at home yet this postseason. Dan, I agree completely. The Astros are the better team, but the Phillies get timely hits and avoid the dumb plays. They have a shot. And this team has had great situational hitting. 2 hot teams, collision course, something's going to give. I think the Astros maybe they used all of their mojo up early, just sweeping through the first few rounds. So, all right, Phillies in 6. I'll go for it.
Why not? Dan, I didn't see that you put up a prediction anywhere at all. If you're still listening, do me a favor, toss it up. I'm curious to see what your prediction is. Looking at the posts online, Dave Thompson went Astros in 6 as well. Yeah, so we're going to see. It's going to be a great series regardless.
If the Astros do win, I will be happy for Dusty Baker as well as Trey Mancini.
Yeah, I forgot about Mancini. All right, so there's Dan's Phillies in 7. Dan thinks we're going to be playing into late into the first week of November. My God, November 5th. That's insane. That's nuts.
Yeah. The other thing the Phillies have going for them right now is, again, we've mentioned this previously. Phillies, again, house money right now. They have nothing to lose. Dan, same here. I'll be in the bed right next to you. Like we'll be yelling together. I told Karen that I feel like I need one of those heart monitors.
You do not want a heart monitor because they will call you. They will call you during the 3rd inning of Game 1 and send your ass to the ER. Do not get a Holter monitor during the World Series if your team is playing.
Oh, and I was also, I'm like, give me like one of those blood pressure cuffs and you'll see it burst. But
do you have a smartwatch, Jason? Do you have a smartwatch like an Apple Watch or whatever?
No.
Oh man, you should get one. I'd love to see. I'd love to watch the charting of your pulse go zip 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 during this series.
Todd makes a great point here in our chat about the opportunities here and with the Astros exposing the Phillies' weakness. I think that's exactly it. I think the Phillies need their starters to go deep. Only use the strong bullpen guys, mainly Alvarado and Dominguez. I say strong because of Robertson, Joe. Joe, tell you what, Joe, I will make a deal with you. If the Phillies win the World Series, I will apologize for my David Robertson hate.
I think you should have to buy a Robertson jersey and wear it as well.
You buy the jersey and I'll wear it.
No.
I'm not going to spend the money on a David Robertson jersey.
Why?
What are you smoking?
Clearance rack.
It's not legal in Pennsylvania.
It is if you have a card.
But but no, like I think there was something I was thinking of with it's about who makes the plays at the right time. It's about limiting the exposure of the weaknesses, and I don't know, man. The Phillies, this is what it was. The Phillies have like the house money. They yes, they have the World Series to lose, but no matter what happens, this year was an incredible success. 7 games under 500 on June 3rd to the National League pennant. Season's already a success. May as well just go out and win the whole damn thing. So, and if they do, amazing. If they don't, oh, well, you lost to the best team in baseball. It happens. Great season. So I think the fact that they are so loose right now, that they are just having fun, dancing on their own, the pressure's on the Astros.
It is on the Astros. It's been on the Astros all years. Here's the thing with the Astros. It's always on the Astros because they're a bunch of cheaters. I mean, that there is no team other than maybe the Yankees that gets more hate during games than the Astros. So I don't think that's really as big of an edge for Philadelphia as it would be against any other team that was on the AL side of the bracket. Looking down the teams real quick here, it's this is a really starting pitching. Phillies are going to run Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, I would assume, and then a combination of Gibson, Syndergaard for 4 with a bullpen. Whereas the Astros will counter that with Verlander, McCullers, probably Framber, Valdez, although they could go with Jose Urquidy as well. So starting pitching wise, it's pretty square, honestly. The Astros can match you guys pitcher for pitcher. There aren't many teams that have been able to do that the whole way through with the starters. That's definitely true. Bullpen for the Phillies. I'm sorry. I got to give the bullpen edge to the Astros. Jason, your top guys can match up with their top guys. I don't like the rest of your bullpen, just like every other series. I don't like the bottom and middle of your bullpen as much as their bottom and middle.
That's why it's key that the starters go as deep as they can.
Right.
If you get the starters through 6 or 7 innings, then you don't need to use your Connor Brogdons, your Kyle Gibsons.
Let's face it, you're going to have one bullpen game at least.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to see happen here is in Game 4, you're going to see Noah Syndergaard get the ball, and he's not going to have that 3-inning limit. If he's Dan 100%, Brad Hand, I would not be upset if Brad Hand was left off the World Series roster. But I think you may also see, Ron, that's a good point too, starting Eflin. I think in Game 4, you're going to see, I think it will be Syndergaard will start it without that 3-inning limit like you saw in the NLDS. If he's on, they'll ride him as long as they think they can, maybe 4 or 5 innings. If they need to go a little earlier, you'll see Zach Eflin or Bailey Falter come in. I personally would probably prefer Eflin to Falter. Eflin has more experience than Falter does to bridge that gap.
I don't think they start Eflin, honestly. I
didn't say start. You're going to have Syndergaard start.
I think they like Eflin better out of the pen, and he's done better out of the pen. I would not. And his mindset right now is a bullpen pitcher. I don't think you want to switch his mind, try and switch him back to a starter for this series.
No, I think you're going to see Syndergaard start, go like maybe 4 innings if they can get 4 out of him. And then you may see Eflin for 2 or 3. Excuse me. And then assuming if they have the lead at that time, you're going to see your stronger back end guys. I think that's how you're going to see Game 4 line up, and then with the travel day in there, you're going to get right back to Wheeler and Nola for 5 and 6, and Suarez for 7.
Yeah. Well, Suarez plus everybody, because that's what always happens in Game 7. Everybody's available, even if you pitch the day before.
Yep, absolutely.
Oof, Todd, that's harsh.
Man.
That's harsh, man.
I think Dan had something really good up here where the key for the Phillies is to start by taking one of the games in Houston.
Yeah.
They need to win the Wheeler or Nola game, and then get 2 of the 3 in Philly, because then figure you're up 3 games at worst. If you can sneak another one, then you're champs. But if you can have 3 wins going back to Houston, you give yourself a shot.
Yeah. Dan, I'm sure Jason would rather see Wheeler close in Game 7 than Robertson. I think he's made that pretty apparent.
I would rather see anybody but David Robertson close the Game 7. Except Brad Hand.
I was about to say, hold on a second. Yeah. Now, continuing to look at the rosters, catcher, huge edge, Philadelphia with JT Realmuto versus either Martin Maldonado or Christian Vasquez for the Astros. First base, you've got Yuli Gurriel, who's I'm assuming going to be DH, and you've got Trey Mancini versus Rhys Hoskin. Sorry, Jason, I'm taking the Astros on this one.
Well, you also mentioned DH in there, but you didn't mention Bryce Harper. So,
well, I was gonna circle back around to DH at the end. I'm looking at the depth charts. I'm not looking at the it's just the order it's in. I saw because for some reason MLB actually has Gurriel listed as the starting first baseman, even though it's Trey Mancini, because they haven't updated it. Second base, Segura for the Phillies versus Altuve. That's a really good matchup for second baseman. I give a very, very slightest edge to Altuve, but I could see either of them going off. I could see either of them going cold, but I don't think it's going to be cold. I think both second basemen are going to be hot, and they're both going to play a great D, because that's both Segura and Altuve.
Girl, your Braves bias is showing.
Not really. Looking ahead at third base, Alec Baum for the Phillies versus Alex Bregman. We saw last year Bregman did not show up one bit in that World Series against Atlanta. So for Bregman, this is kind of like a redemption tour. He's got the edge defensively, no doubt. Baum's been the hotter hitter, though. So probably slight edge to Baum, I would say, at third base. Shortstop. So here's interesting. Is it going to be Bryson Stott? I'm assuming, or are they going to sneak Edmundo Sosa in for a game or two like they did in Atlanta? I thought that was a really curious move, actually, Game 1 going with Sosa instead of Stott.
The only reason they went with Sosa was because of the left-handed starter.
Okay. All right.
Any left-handed starters, you'll probably see Sosa in for Stott and Vierling in for Marsh in center.
Okay, so just a straight-up matchup. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so Stott then primarily is the Philly shortstop versus who is it now for the Astros? Is it Pena and Diaz, I believe? Yeah, I think Jeremy Pena is probably the guy you're going to see primarily. I don't know. Toss-up. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know Houston shortstop very well, so... All right, so out in left field, obviously, you've got Schwarber for the Phillies. They can run the Astros. They can run Mancini out there. They can also run Chas McCormick. Clearly, since Schwarber has gone from a batting average of 0 to 0.77 to 400, I'm going to take Schwarber right now, because playoff Schwarber has returned after 2 rounds of dormancy. How can you not? Center field for the Phillies, Brandon Marsh is the primary starter versus Chas McCormick. This is an interesting one. What do you think, Jason? McCormick's not a bad center fielder at all, but that said, Marsh, as you pointed out, has really solidified the outfield defense so nicely for Philadelphia. What do you think here for the edge?
From a defensive standpoint, I definitely would take Marsh. From an offensive standpoint, I'll probably go towards the Astros. Marsh has been struggling a bit. He had one big hit so far in the postseason, which was that big 3-run homer in the NLDS. Yeah, Dan, that's exactly the point that I was just about to make here. Marsh has that uppercut swing. He doesn't level out, and he is very susceptible to the high fastball. He just flat out misses it. So defensively, I take Marsh. Offensively, I lean towards the Astros. But center field isn't really known for batting, so I guess I'll take the edge to Marsh because that's where you need your defense to be top.
Well, and if he was struggling with fastballs up, he's going to continue to struggle because Houston's pitchers are phenomenal at pounding fastball up. So did not consider that. All right, right field, you got Castellanos for the Phillies, and you've got Kyle Tucker with the Astros. I'm going to take Tucker on this one, I think, over Castellanos. I'm still not sold on him, man. I'm really not. He's been doing better, but I've seen too much this year to be sold on him at all.
I would put that one as pretty much even, just because Castellanos' bat has come alive a bit. He hasn't hit home runs, but he's gotten on base. He's had solid contact, and his defense has been really good. Yeah, Dan, I don't know where his power has been either. He's getting base hits, and I think he took a few walks. The issue that I have with Castellanos, and he's known to do this, he is way too aggressive. He swings at almost what feels like every pitch, especially the first pitch of the at bat. I would like to see him be more patient and wait for his pitch, and then just smack it. So I think that's where his pop is. His pop's missing because he doesn't go after his pitch. He goes at any pitch.
And go ahead and say it, Joe. You nailed it.
Yeah, he left his power in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Power wasn't included in the contract he signed. Sorry. Plus, let's face it, he's hurt every year. He has been hurt every year he's been in the majors, and I think he's been playing hurt most of this year, even when he's been back healthy again. And that's probably the other place his power went. Plus, he's also better known for power against left-handed pitching than he is against right-handed pitching.
Harper being hurt this year with his elbow hasn't helped Castellanos out because Castellanos has had to play right field basically every day for the entire season.
Yeah, and he's not a good right fielder. He's barely a serviceable left fielder.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of part of it too, because they wanted him to be the primary DH and basically swap him and Schwarber out, just because they wanted him to focus on the bat, and he didn't get a chance to do that this year. So I think with a healthy Bryce Harper next year, I think you may see a power increase next year.
I mean, it can't be worse than it was this year.
The Phillies analysts had a really good comparison, I think. They used Francisco Lindor as an example. His first year with the Mets, terrible, but he then got settled in and had a really good year this year. I think you may see the same with Castellanos next year. But next year is not here yet. We still have 4 more wins to go, 1 more series to go. So hopefully he can turn it around here and continue to at least get on base and try and drive in some runs.
And then DH, you've got Bryce Harper versus either Yordan Alvarez or Yuli Gurriel, depending on how Houston is setting their defense across the board. Either way, it's Harper.
Yordan Alvarez makes it closer.
Yes.
But it's 100% Bryce Harper.
Closer than any other series the Phillies have played in this postseason, without a doubt. Especially because Atlanta decided to run fucking Marcell Ozuna out there so many games, which cannot wait.
I think the way we went through this, I think it shows that the teams are pretty evenly matched.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good series.
Yeah, we're getting a series that's not decided before they start, I think.
Yes.
Which is what we're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you have at least one team that's fresh. I mean, if you wanted the completely fresh matchup, it'd be a rematch of Yankees-Phillies. But, yeah, the Yankees, that's not going to happen anytime soon, as we beat home about 1,000 times. I
This
think
is this is what, the third or fourth straight World Series for the Astros?
Fourth and 5. I think. Give me a second here. I can tell you.
Because last year would have been the Braves and Astros.
Mhm.
Dodgers. Who did the Dodgers beat? Did the Dodgers beat the? No, they didn't beat the Indians.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Here we go. Okay, there it is. Okay, so last year it was Braves over Astros, Dodgers over Rays in 2020,
Rays, that's it.
Nationals over Astros in 19. Boy, talk about a team that's fallen apart since they won. Red Sox over Dodgers in 18, Astros over Dodgers with an asterisk in 17.
So 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 years.
Yeah. So, and for those weird intangibles, the Astros players, they've all been there.
Yeah.
Other than, oddly enough, Mancini. I should say sadly enough. The Astros players, they're not going to be fazed by the World Series. Something to watch out for. The Phillies have a young roster and a team of guys that outside of Schwarber have never made it to the World Series. So, will that matter? Maybe, maybe not. It didn't matter last year because Atlanta's players, none of them had been there. And the Astros, again, because they've been there so much lately, had all been there and Atlanta was able to come through. So that, didn't matter last year. It may not matter this year. We'll see.
It's not always the best team that wins. It's the scrappiest. It's the hottest. And it's going to see who stays hot after the 5 days.
Yeah. This is a huge layoff between the CS and the World Series. I didn't expect both series to be well, and it doesn't help to the ALCS the way that started with the rain mess and the Yankees and all of that. And yeah,
I'm curious to know, just because this was a debate that I was having with some other people. Dan and Ronnie, if you're both still listening here, would you have rather the Astros sweep like they did and have the same amount of time off as the Phillies? Or would you have rather that the Yankees took a couple games to try and beat the Astros up a little bit and cause their rotation to not be lined up for the series? I'm curious to know what you guys would have preferred and what Dan and Ronnie as Phillies fans would have preferred. I know what I personally would prefer, but I'm curious to know what you all think.
Joe, go ahead, but I already know my answer.
Yeah, I'd say the same amount of downtime if it's me. I think we saw early on, other than the Astros, that week delay kind of hurt them as opposed to the team that had momentum going. So I think if the Astros had to fight a little harder, they would have had a little bit more momentum going into the series. I think having the same amount of time off is helpful.
Yeah, I agree with that, Joe, and I agree with Dan here. I think Thompson's going to really keep the Phillies loose. And again, with the Phillies not really having anything to lose, they're just going to come in firing, I think. Whereas the Astros, I think you may see a little bit of that rust because they're so used to just playing. I mean, granted, they did have, and what we saw was they coasted into the playoffs. They had a break. Yes, they swept the Mariners, but the Mariners gave them a big run for their money. The Mariners could have easily taken 2 or all 3 of those games because they had leads late in 2 of the first 3. So
yeah,
I think the rust.
But the Astros were able to take that and build momentum and ran it right through the Yankees.
Yeah, but that's where I think it's good to have the rest here for both teams. Let people get healthy, especially on the Phillies side. Get the lineup set up and see what you can do.
Dan, that was close, but there were 2 one-run games in the Yankee series, though. Too. Game 2 was 3-2. Game 4 was 6-5. So personally, I actually would rather have seen the Astros beaten up going in. I think that was a huge key for Atlanta last year was the Astros starting pitching was so beaten up and so bad that they had to use their bullpen a ton. And I think they were gassed by the time they got into the World Series. I think the Braves and Astros finished the CSs last year around the same time, if I'm remembering right. So it was roughly the same amount of downtime going in. But the Astros had to use their bullpen, I think, 15 or 20 more innings than Atlanta had because their starters couldn't get deep, and McCullers got hurt during the ALCS last year, so they lost their ace before the series even started. So personally, I'd rather see the other team have to play the whole way through and watch their bullpen have to eat more innings. I mean, that's definitely something we're going to have to look at throughout the series too, because the Astros have pitched significantly fewer innings than the Phillies this entire postseason. And I know they had, you guys had to play the wild card round. They were off, but that's what 25 more innings the Phillies have pitched than the Astros right now. So, and the Phillies have had to use the bullpen quite a bit. I know they're going to have time off before the World Series, so theoretically that shouldn't matter as much, but it is something to look at because, you have to look at where for the entire season.
Yeah, I would just say again, and I said this toward sort of the beginning of the playoffs, never underestimate a team with nothing to lose.
I honestly, Joe, I really think that's both teams. I really do. The Phillies have less to lose than the Astros, but these are both teams playing like they have nothing to lose.
I mean, let's be honest here. I think most people expected Houston to at least be in this position.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the ALCS and losing a tight series or in the World Series. Nobody, I honestly think, thought Philly would be here. They thought they'd get to the playoffs. They thought maybe they'd be competitive, but not here.
Yeah, and Dan, that is a good point. And this kind of probably goes with some of the things that drives Jason nuts as he watches Thompson do odd things to the bullpen here and there. But he's done a decent job managing starter innings throughout. He's also, I think, a couple times ran Wheeler and Nola a little bit farther than he should have, and it's showed as the bullpens had to pick them back up.
He's made the right calls this postseason. Look at even yesterday alone. Wheeler started out like 97, 98, 99 on his fastball, which is a good like mile to 2 miles an hour over his usual with all that adrenaline going in a clinching game. The moment that he dropped down to like a 93, 94, which was his lowest pitch, next batter, Thompson was out and made the change. So I think Thompson is really paying attention to all of this, and he has made incredible decisions this entire postseason. So, yeah, I know postseason doesn't count for manager of the year voting, but this guy is the manager of the year.
Yeah.
He's just been absolutely incredible for this team, and the players love him. The players want to play for him. They want to win for him. They wait for him to get into the clubhouse and make a speech to them before the champagne celebrations. A lot of teams don't do that. They get in there and they just start popping and going. They wait for their manager.
I hope they don't for the World Series. Just if they win the World Series, pop it. He can talk later.
No, they will wait. I can tell you, like they love this guy, and they are going to give everything they have.
You want Hall on the bench? You need yeah, Dan, that's a good point. That's one I hadn't even thought of, actually.
I would be okay with that. My only concern is the fact that he hasn't played in so long. I don't think they would be good at bats.
He's still listed on them as a minor league member of the roster, isn't he? I believe. Yeah, I don't think he's probably on the 40 man, but I don't think he's on the major. I don't think he's been on the major league roster for a while.
Barring any kind of injury or something like that, I think you'll see him stay off. fun fact here, you know, we had the National League Championship series of a brother versus brother, Nola versus Nola. We have a brother versus brother matchup in the World Series. It's not going to happen because one or both will be left off of the roster. But Phil Maton, pitcher for the Astros, and Nick Maton, a bench piece for the Phillies. Nick Maton was left off of all of the rosters so far, so he's not going to be on the roster. But a Maton is going to get a ring. So we have another brother versus brother here, even though the matchup almost certainly will not happen.
Yeah, I'm just taking a peek here. Joe, you made the point in our group chat you don't want to bring a cold bat into the postseason. I think you nailed it, man. You definitely don't want to do that. Let me see here. Let me see if Maton's listed on the projected roster for the Astros. Jason, I'm just peeking quick here. I don't see Maton projected to be on the Astros roster.
Yeah.
Which one's the pitcher?
Phil for the Astros.
Yeah.
Yeah, he broke his hand back at the beginning of the playoffs.
That's right. Didn't he punch a locker or something?
He punched the locker and broke his hand.
That's right.
Didn't some guy in Milwaukee do that last year too?
I think so. It was either in the first round of the playoffs or right before the playoffs.
I forgot.
It was this for the Brewers guy. It was the celebration when they clinched because they didn't have him in the Atlanta series.
No, so I'm saying with Maton, it may have been before the playoffs, but yeah, he broke his hand. So
or he may have been involved in the Mariners series and didn't pitch well, and
yeah, it was either that Mariners series or right before the playoffs.
I forgot that he did that.
Let me see here. Yeah, season-ending injury for Phil Maton. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, he actually had to have surgery, it looks like. Phil Maton, season-ending hand surgery. Revealed he had broken the fifth metacarpal in his right hand, which is his throwing hand, after punching his locker following his outing against the Phillies on Wednesday, in which he gave up 2 runs. Had to have surgery to repair the fracture. Will be ready to go for next season. Yep. Yeah. What is it with these damn pitchers punching things with your throwing hand? Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure he gave up a hit to his brother, Nick, too. So maybe he was just mad that he gave a hit to his brother.
But again, protect your throwing hand, you dumbasses. Every year we have an idiot pitcher who gets pissed off and punches something they shouldn't punch with their pitching hand. Use your glove hand, you idiot, so you can at least keep pitching.
Or at least hit something that gives a little bit, like a water cooler or something.
Or just
the locker's not going to give.
Or use the bat to
phone out. Well, I don't know. Pitchers aren't allowed to bat anywhere anymore. They might actually somehow hit themselves trying to hit something else because of lack of familiarity.
He could have just gone to the Phillies locker room, grabbed one of Nick's bats.
No, just steal. You know what? You got to hit off me. I'm stealing your bats. Borrow Harper's. Actually, that might have helped him if you.
I'm pretty sure Harper borrowed somebody's bat near the end of the season. But yeah.
And that's another fun thing about the postseason. You see all these weird hijinks happen. Like last year when Eddie Rosario did the unthinkable in the NLCS and brought back his cycle bat that he had against the Giants when he hit for the cycle in 5 pitches, and he brought that back in the NLCS. And everybody's like, "Are you nuts? You might break it. You don't bring something like that back." Or what year was it? Jason, was it the Phillies' last run where everybody was rubbing somebody's bat before they went up to bat because of how hot they were? Or am I thinking of some other? I can't remember. It was something weird like that, almost like the, almost like the sage burning in the locker room. Always the playoffs. You see all this fun stuff, all this fun stuff pop through. So Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a fun series to watch. I really do think it will be. Jason, I do mean this, even though I hate the Phillies. Good luck. I do.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll be bummed if they lose, of course, but I'll also just relish in the fact that they did what they did this year. They have at worst a blue pennant going up the flagpole next year. They at worst have a National League championship ring. Go Phils, win the whole damn thing.
Maybe baseball needs to do what hockey does and not pick up the championship trophy and ignore the fact that it exists.
I did think one of the things I really liked about Harper in his post-game interview, he carried the National League MVP Series MVP trophy. He went to sit down and he goes, "I don't care about this. Major League Baseball is just making me bring it." And so I really like that he put the focus on the team and everything. He wasn't like putting the trophy down. Like he made sure that people knew, like, I don't really care about this, but Major League Baseball is just making me have it here for the interview.
This isn't the trophy I want to be hauling around.
Yeah. Well, he said that too, and they say, players dream of hitting big home runs to, like win and things like that. What are your thoughts on that? Is this what you dream of? He goes, when people dream of hitting the game-winning home run, it's in the World Series.
Yeah.
He said it's bases loaded, full count, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth in the
Mariano
World
Rivera in his prime.
He said it's the next level. He said it's not this level. He said it's the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that guy gets this city and these fans. I tell you what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bohm, did you guys see what Bohm said in the locker room in his interview?
No, I didn't. I didn't see the interview.
The Phillies analysts were asking him, like, they asked him about Harper's home run, whatnot, and you can tell Bohm they were all drinking a lot at this point. And he gave his answers, and they said, "Do you have anything to say, to the fans, to this city, about this?" And he goes, "I love this place," and walked away.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Brilliant. What a way to wrap a 360 around a story for a season.
Talk about a change.
Yeah. I mean, I still hate his defense every time he throws the ball. I'm like, that, Jesus Christ, where the hell is this going to go? But definitely improved. Definitely improved from the early part of the season. Yeah.
Before we sign off, we should make sure that we let everybody know that we won't actually be recording next week.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Because next week on Monday night, there will be a World Series game going on. So even if we wanted to be recording something, Jason wouldn't be here, and all Joe and I would be talking about is games 1 and 2 and awards. And where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? Or Jason will be popping on and off. The Phillies scored. God damn it, the Astros scored. And that's all it would be throughout. Nobody wants to see that. So we will not be on next week. We will be on the Monday following the end of the World Series, or if it goes all the way to the 5th of November, we'll figure that out we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we will be off until then, and we will see you guys at the conclusion of the World Series, whether it is the Astros or the Phillies that pull this one off. And so, yeah, that's it for us. And when we come back, we will wrap the World Series. We will start looking at postseason awards and all of that, because hopefully by that point, they will finally start announcing the finalists for MVP and Cy Young and everything else. And Joe and I have some very, 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 very strong opinions about some snubs for the NL Golden Gloves that we will be talking about as well, because he and I each have a player that got left off, and it is complete and utter bull crap that those two players got left off the list. But we will talk about that after the World Series. All right, guys, you can find the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. You can see us live on our YouTube channel, on Facebook Live, and on Twitter. You can find the merchandise at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsbeer and on the Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300 and Joe is at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC, and we are sponsored by the phenomenal Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. Johnny, better luck next year. Your team needs a lot of improvement, bud. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night. Jason, good luck.
Go Bears!